Hello and welcome to my video today. I am talking today about the Mercury retrograde that is officially retrograde today. Yesterday we moved into the sign of Taurus, and we also had that absolutely epic hybrid solar eclipse along with the new moon yesterday. So hopefully you guys are all doing really well after that, and I'm sure you all observed how you were feeling energetically or just in general. I know a lot of people were commenting or telling me that they were feeling really tired. Some people were feeling energized. I had a mix of both. I was energized for the first half of the day, and then I felt a little bit deflated in the second half. Not deflated, but just a little bit more tired in the second half of the day. Today, however, I'm feeling really awesome and really good, which is wonderful for this Mercury retrograde. So let's talk about this Mercury retrograde and what it's actually got in store for us right now, and what it's going to really mean for us and how we can work with this energy. I'm going to be talking about the energy center or energy portals in the body that this Mercury retrograde is connecting with in the sign of Taurus. And I'm going to be explaining some things about how we can really work with this energy in terms of healing some old stuff, because Mercury retrograde, of course, we know is always a time to go back over things. It is a time for renewal. It is a time for a whole bunch of the re's, right? All the words with the re's, and I'll be listing all of those in just a moment. So without further ado, let's get straight into it. I have a lot of information to cover, and I definitely want to get to the main and most important part, which is understanding how to work with this energy, what might be coming up for you at this time, and how you can really shift yourself out of any kind of blockages or any kind of stuck energy that is here that you're feeling perhaps at this time. So Mercury retrograde means that it is time to go back over things, right? Which is what I had mentioned. It is the re-evaluate, refocus, redo, reflect, reconsider, resolve. It's tying up loose ends and finishing unfinished business. So while many people tend to have some pretty negative opinions about Mercury retrograde, because as I'm sure most of us know by now, that Mercury retrograde tends to really mess with our electronics. It messes with communication because Mercury rules communication. So anything and everything that has to do with communication, Mercury kind of, when it goes into retrograde, messes with a little bit. So I know lots of other YouTubers have already been mentioning how it's been taking significantly longer to upload their videos, and like sometimes certain calls aren't coming through. It's miscommunication and missed communication as well. So lots of those kind of issues also popping up at this time. So it's okay though, because we have to understand that when Mercury goes retrograde, it is always asking us to slow down. It is asking us to just take a step back, reevaluate, reassess the situation, look at everything from a higher perspective, from a slower perspective, and then move forward once we have concrete plans or a specific idea in mind, or once we have actually true clarity on how to move forward and what to do to move forward. So really, Mercury retrograde, in my eyes, is definitely not a negative. I feel it's a really positive aspect, because it really gives us an opportunity to review those things that perhaps we've just been powering through or moving through and not really looking at the finer details of things. So this is also time, and Mercury retrograde also means for us that it is time to step out of our comfort zone, because it is in the sign of Taurus. It is definitely asking us to move beyond our limitations, move beyond that imaginary bubble that we've set up for ourselves that doesn't allow us to move forward. It's asking us actually to look at our comfort zone and to really assess or reassess our comfort zone and figure out, is this still true for me? Is this still comfortable for me? Or is my comfort zone a complacency zone more than anything? Because that's usually what comfort zones are, right? And oftentimes we can't get much accomplished in our comfort zone because there's like a ceiling to it, there's a limitation to it. You're not able to move past that zone of comfort, right? Because speaking for personal experience, most things in life, big things that we desire to accomplish, are always accomplished through discomfort. Okay, so we can't really move through life without discomfort, and we can't grow in life and expand and become a better version of ourselves without the discomfort. So every time that you know that you have hit a comfort zone, then, you know, Mercury retrograde, that's why it happens several times a year. It gives us these opportunities to reassess and say, okay, yeah, but is this still true for me? Do I still want to just be in this comfort zone because I know I'm just going to stagnate if I stay? Or can I move out of that comfort zone, do some really uncomfortable things, and perhaps the discomfort will only last for a temporary period of time. But once I'm past that, then I know things will get really good again. And then you kind of start to reestablish a newer comfort zone, or your comfort zone is now expanded and feels wider. It just feels more open. It feels like you just have so much more opportunity. Sorry guys, just had a tickle in my throat. So this is also a time to take off, to blast off. Mercury retrograde gives us this like sort of oomph energy. While it's asking us to slow down, it is also sort of pushing us in a way to look at things differently and to really start taking action in the right direction, right? Because in order to move out of a comfort zone, you need to take action towards the right things that are going to propel you forward, so that once Mercury retrograde ends and Mercury starts flying forward again, then you already have some things set up and in place and in motion to actually gain a lot more momentum moving forward. So taking off like into new directions, which, like I said, may be uncomfortable, and we just talked about our comfort zone. This is also a really good time to kind of ask yourself, what foundation have you built for yourself up to this point? And is that working for you? And does that bring you joy? So a really, really good question to ponder, especially here, you know, we're at spring in 2023. We're still very much at the beginning of the year, but we're kind of inching towards being halfway through the year already. So this is really, really a good time to look at your foundation and to see if that's something that is okay the way that it is, or if it's something that you feel needs change, needs upgrading, needs reevaluating to transform it, to make it a stronger foundation, to make it more solid, to make it a foundation that really brings you joy, because I'm going to be touching on joy in a moment as well, with this sun being in Taurus, with Mercury retrograde being in the sign of Taurus. So what do you need now to be different in your life or with your foundation? So some really solid questions to ask ourselves and give ourselves some time to reflect upon that. So Sun in Taurus is also about building. It's about growing, flourishing. It's about calm and peace. So evaluating and looking at those things in your life and whether you have those things, like, are you building anything? Are you growing? Do you feel like you're flourishing? Do you feel calmness and peace within your life at this time? And if not, then Mercury retrograde again gives us this opportunity to reevaluate and see what can be done so that we can really start to build in a more efficient kind of way, so that we can really actually grow and expand, flourish, and that we can have more calm and peace in our lives as a result. Because see, when we're building and when we're growing, like as I'm building my little empire here, I'm finding the more that I put into it, the more that it is growing, and the more that I'm seeing the fruits of my labor, the more joy that brings me, and the more calm and the more peace that brings me, because I'm understanding how it is moving me forward. It is moving me in the right direction. And while some days may be really easy to do that, and I can show up super easily for myself, other days it may not be as easy, and it may be more challenging for me to perhaps see the peace and the calm and the joy in everything that I'm doing. And that's okay too, right? Because our feelings and our emotions ebb and flow. It's not about, you know, always having to feel like super high vibe. I mean, absolutely, that's great if you do, but if you don't, that's okay too. It's more about just the ebb and flow and going with the flow as well. So what needs to be rebuilt in your life at this time? That's something that you can ask yourself as well. And what honors your creativity and talents? What inspires you? I mentioned I'm going to be talking about the sacral chakra in a moment, because the sacral chakra connects to Taurus, to the sign of Taurus. So when we ask ourselves what needs to be rebuilt in our life at this time, that's again having to do with foundation. Taurus represents foundation, finances, money, that kind of thing. What honors your creativity and talents? That connects to sacral chakra, which Taurus governs. What inspires you? Inspiration is also within that sacral chakra. What makes you jump out of bed in the morning and just gets you going and you're just excited to start your day? These are things to ask yourself right now. And if you're not feeling these things, if you're not excited in the morning to get up and go and just like get going and get straight to work or whatever, then that means that your work is not necessarily fulfilling. It's not inspiring you. It is not activating you. It is not like energetically. It's not pushing you. It doesn't have like a forward momentum to it. Any work or any job that we do that we feel stagnant in, where we feel stuck, are typically a really, really good indicator for us that it's expired. It is something that needs reevaluation. It is something that needs to be reassessed and looked at with scrutiny and with honesty. And we need to ask ourselves, am I just doing this because it is my comfort zone? Or am I doing this because it's something that I actually get fulfillment and joy and excitement from, right? And if you're not getting joy and excitement and fulfillment from what you do, then it is not the right thing that you should be doing. And later on, I'm going to touch on why we don't do the things that we really could be doing that would bring us the joy and the peace that we are actually seeking, which also has to do with the sacral chakra. So let's see, what honors your creativity and talents, which I mentioned, and really tune into that, really tap into that creativity and talent thing. Like, am I creative in my job? Or is my job repetitive? Is it the same thing over and over and over, which makes me feel really redundant? It makes me feel stuck. It makes me feel uncreative. It makes me feel like I'm not using my talents, my creativity, my gifts to the best of my ability. Is there a lack of inspiration in what you're doing? So what does it mean for you to live a good life at this time? That's something to ask yourself as well. Like, what is going to make you feel really joyful? Like really, really where you feel genuinely like you're living a good life. And a good life doesn't mean being extremely rich and all of this stuff. A good life really just means a balanced life. A life where you have all of the abundance that you need and you have the prosperity, you have the money that you need to be able to do everything, including the fun stuff and the games, the toys, whatever. But it's also balanced in a spiritual aspect, in an emotional and mental aspect. That's really what balance is. So what does it mean for you to live a good life at this time? And what do you think is missing for you to be able to live a really good life at this time? Is there anything that you feel void of or a lack within your life? Excuse me. Working with the present moment is also really, really important. And I'm noticing for myself, like, to be present and to continue staying present, especially when the mind really wants to take off. And I noticed actually yesterday my mind was quite active, and even the day before, actually yesterday was not too bad, but the day before that, I felt my mind being really, really active, and just certain thoughts coming up that I'm like, oh God, these are like Mercury retrograde thoughts. Like this is like a revisiting of thoughts and things that are coming up for me again right now, showing me, giving me awareness that, hey, I still need to work on those certain thought patterns, because here they are resurfacing, even though I've done a significant amount of work to overcome some of my negative thinking. It still is surfacing now here with the Mercury retrograde. And that's great, because it just gives me that opportunity to see what I still need to work on and what I still need to shift and change within myself. Have your values changed? And this is something that when I was writing the notes for this video, I was like, oh my gosh, like my values have changed so much over the last, I'm going to say probably 6 months, or maybe just even 3 months. Like I'm noticing significantly how my value system has changed, how I no longer value certain things that I used to value before. And that's also a really, really good thing. It gives us an opportunity to shed some things and purge some things out of our life at this time with this Mercury retrograde that are not valuable to us, that we don't consider to be important, that we don't consider to be something that is meaningful or is fulfilling or inspiring in any kind of way. So there's just a lot of different things that have shifted for me in the last little bit, even just like my style of dressing and how I dress. And I was looking through my closet, for example, the other day. Taurus, materialistic, right? Material things. And I was just looking through my closet the other day, realizing like, man, I don't really vibe with half of this stuff anymore. Like, I just don't really like it. I don't want to wear it. I'm looking for a different style. It's like there's a freshness, a newness that is definitely coming in for me energetically that I'm significantly feeling. And that's, I don't know, I think that's a really cool thing. I'm totally flowing with it, so, and going with it. Even food, for an example, like the things that I'm eating, I noticed that has significantly shifted lately, and just the desire to eat different and better, and like really, you know, up my self-care game, for example. So lots of different things have changed for me in terms of value. And the other big shift that I noticed for myself, which I noticed at the beginning of this year, in terms of my value shifting, is peace. I have an incredible desire for peace of mind, peace within myself, to see peace within my life and like outside of my life, like in the world. It's interesting. I never had such a focus on peace before. I think I was so on autopilot when it came to, you know, being in sort of like stuck in a certain mindset, and I was just running on autopilot in that mindset, and which of course was stressful and anxiety ridden and difficult. And now I'm noticing that it's really, peace has been like my number one priority. So I do everything and anything to continue bringing myself back into peace, especially during times when my brain gets super active or loud and really has, you know, a lot of negative shit to say. Then I will definitely be like, no, we're just going to center and go right back to peace. And in that moment, actually, I'll shut, like if I'm watching something and like negative thoughts will come, I'll shut it off immediately. I literally, the best thing for me now to reconnect to peace is silence. Absolute silence. So I will just shut everything off and I will just listen. Like I'll step outside in the backyard for a minute and I'll listen to the birds and I'll just listen to nature and I'll tune into that, and I'll allow nature to basically recalibrate me to my own peace. So there's a little exercise for you that you can try. Lots of notes here. Sorry guys, one second. So yeah, in terms of the values and how have your values changed, and perhaps you might want to write these down actually for yourself. So it's like, ask yourself what's important for you now, and has your value system shifted recently, or maybe even in recent years or recent months, whenever. Like I said, peace of mind was something that was very important for me. Finding joy in everything that I do has also become almost highlighted more increasingly. I've become more increasingly aware of the desire to bring joy into the things that I do. Making sure I add value to everything that I do. So again, my value system has shifted in such a way where I'm actually wanting to really make sure that I'm adding value to everything that I do, everything. Less complaining or talking negatively, creating opportunities of joy for myself. So looking to do little small things around the house or just in general that really spark joy within me to, again, pull me out of any negative thinking if I'm there. Really, I find to be helpful. Just taking better care of my health and being in service to others. That really fills my cup. So just, again, reevaluate your value system and just see what is important for you now. What are the kind of experiences and things that you want to have now versus before? And then now we're just going to get into the chakra stuff in just a second. So look at your daily life habits and your lifestyle. That's also actually governed by Taurus. Does it need any tweaking? Do you make time to love yourself, to take care of what you need instead of perhaps always caring for others? And when you are by yourself and when you do have free time, do you spend any of that free time to take care of yourself? Or are you spending that free time, you know, cleaning the house or getting organized or doing stuff for the kids or, you know, like just different chores and other external activities that have nothing to do with taking care of yourself really and truly? Because for me, self-care, a big part of my self-care is to actually, you know, sit outside in quiet and meditation and just reflection and just being quiet and being silent within myself. That's a huge part of my self-care, just to quiet my mind, to not have incessant thoughts constantly streaming through my brain is such a huge part of my self-care, because I find that the cleaner I keep this and the more balanced I keep my mind, the better I feel overall and the better outlook I have on everything and every situation that I'm currently in or perhaps facing. So I find that to be very helpful. And I think most of us are really stuck in our heads and we do way too much overthinking. So, you know, quieting the mind is definitely a really great way to recenter yourself. Grounding actually at this time is something I'm going to also mention. Taurus being a sign of material, sign of things, a sign of physicality. Grounding at this time and tuning ourselves into nature more is going to be very helpful through this Mercury retrograde. And I don't know why my voice is so funny this morning. So have you cultivated a self-care routine, or is that a foreign thing for you because you're so used to being the giver to other people that perhaps you don't really know how to give to yourself? Perhaps you were never taught how to give to yourself and how to love yourself in a good way. So Taurus connects to the sacral, or the second chakra, which is right around your belly button area, which initiates the expansion of individuality, reflecting the instinctual need to develop a specific personality, but also to reach out to others. So our sacral chakra, which, like I said, Taurus governs, has very much to do with our individual personalities. So, and the development of that personality. So the question is, what is your personality currently like? What issues do you currently have with your personality? I know as soon as Mercury went retrograde, I started to certain things started popping up where I was having issues with certain aspects of my personality. And I was like, where is this coming from? But as I started to do the research and put this material together, it made absolute perfect sense. And now I actually feel so much better about it. So I'm not stressing over, different thoughts I was having about my personality. And now I'm not judging those thoughts. Now I'm just recognizing, oh, okay, this is coming up for evaluation. And that's basically it. So I don't need to judge it. It's more about developing that specific personality within yourself. And the sacral chakra also has to do very much with reaching out to others. So this is something to ask yourself, how good am I when it comes to asking for help? Do I ask for help, or do I insist on doing everything on my own? And as someone who is definitely very used to being independent, I know that I can sometimes struggle with asking for help. And sometimes it can be really difficult for me to ask, because it feels like I should be able to do everything on my own, and that I should be strong enough and I should be smart enough to figure it out and whatever. And sometimes we forget that we are not meant to be jack of all trades. We are who we are, and we have a certain set of gifts and talents and abilities that we have cultivated within ourselves, or perhaps we're born with. And, that's who we are. And while you can grow and expand that by learning and gaining knowledge and insight, it isn't something that you have to you don't have to know everything, and you don't have to be able to do everything on your own. And take it from someone who struggles with this. It's definitely something that I'm now going to look at in a different way. And I'm going to start assessing and just kind of asking myself, like, why do I have, this issue within myself? And where do I need to be more willing to reach out and ask for help and ask for support from others? And why do I have an issue with asking for help or support from others? So these are some questions to definitely ponder at this time so that you can help figure this out within yourself, and then recognize that, like, it's perfectly okay to ask for help. We're not meant to know everything and figure everything out on our own. We are human beings, and human beings are social creatures for a reason. So we are meant to work together. We are meant to bring and collaborate, and we are meant to bring our talents and gifts together and share them with others, and allow others to share theirs with us, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. It is a process of allowing, right? When you are someone who's too independent and you don't allow help or support from others, then you need to ask yourself why. What makes you feel unsafe when you do that? Or does it make you feel like you're not good enough, or that you're, not smart enough, or not whatever enough, right? And question that within yourself, because obviously that's an illusion. And that is an area of life that perhaps you just need to work on at this time. So the sacral chakra, or the second chakra, like I said, in the belly button area, is also ruled by the water element, which encourages us to enjoy the rhythms and cycles of life, going with the flow of the present moment. And so therefore it also regulates the fluids in the body. So are you going with the flow? Do you know how to go with the flow? Do you know what the flow even means, right? And do you connect with your own rhythm and with your own cycles? And do you understand how your rhythms and cycles also connect to the greater rhythms and cycles of the universe, of our planet, of our solar system? And that influences us in a significant way. So here I would say step one is to figure out what your own rhythm and cycle is. And this means that you would need to observe and pay attention to whether you are tuned into yourself enough to recognize, when and what times am I more tired, and what times am I more energized, and perhaps what times of the month am I more tired or energized, or when I'm around certain people, am I more tired or energized? Things like that. These are definitely things to observe within yourself, because if you do, you're going to have much clearer insight in terms of what needs to be adjusted within, and just where you are. It's a deeper understanding of what your cycles are and your rhythm. And when you understand that, you're able to honor it more. So our psyche expresses itself through the sacral chakra, representing creativity. So here is where we're going to get into the creativity aspect of the sacral chakra. So the sacral chakra's main aspect is sweetness. So it connects to like sweetness, asking us if we are willing to fill ourselves with the sweetness of life and love. Because of course the sacral chakra governs a lot of different organs, including the sex organs within our body. I will list those in just a moment. So the sacral chakra actually develops within the human between the ages of 8 and 14. So that's when this chakra actually starts to activate and open up. Babies' energy centers and chakras are actually closed. The only two that are open for infants and for little children since from birth is our crown, so our connection to source, and our third eye, which is our ability to see beyond just the physical. That's why a lot of children have, the gift of sight, and they can see ghosts, and they can see different apparitions or different energies or different energy beings that can be present in a space that perhaps adults can't see, because by the time we become adults, a lot of adults have closed third eye chakras, so they lose that gift of sight, spiritual sight, I guess, or energetic sight. So between the age of 8 and 14, and think about this for a moment for yourself. think back to that period of time in your life. And how was that period of time in your life? Was it stressful? Was it a period of time in your life when you felt loved and supported? Or was it a difficult time? Were you bullied in school? Were you ever made fun of? How did your parents treat you? How did your extended family members or your siblings treat you? Think back to that, because 8 and 14, between that age gap, there's definitely, because that's when the sacral chakra is developing, it can get really thwarted, or it can get really thrown off, or it can have some very negative or toxic seeds energetically planted into that chakra, which will actually cause an underdevelopment of that chakra if that child is not nurtured during that 8 and 14 age range. So really think about that time in your life and what was kind of going on and what was happening, and whether you feel that it was a positive or like a negative or a difficult time or easy time in your life. And how did you feel like about your parents or caretakers or your family at that time? The sacral chakra governs the sexual organs, as I mentioned, the bladder, the prostate, the womb, the sacral nerve plexus, and the kidneys. So what I'm going to mention here is that if you have issues with any of these organs, that is going to indicate an energy blockage within the sacral chakra specifically. So even though it's organs that are in the vicinity of this energy center in your body, those organs are going to be massively affected, because if there isn't proper flow, the chakras or the energy centers spin. So if there isn't a proper spin to that energy center, because it is perhaps underdeveloped, because perhaps it has a bunch of toxic seeds from that 8 to 14 age range from your childhood, where a lot of negative things happened or really difficult situations. And I mean, think about it. That's like preteen, right? That's preteen age. It's a very critical time in our life when we are developing in so many different ways. And that's when we're also developing sexually, right? That's why the sacral chakra governs that age range, because that's when our hormones start to kick in. You know, for girls, they start to get their periods, you know, around anywhere from like even age 9, I've heard, but anywhere from age 10, usually upward, like to between 10 and 14, right? That's the age range when that'll happen. So obviously, because the organs are also developing at that time as this chakra is beginning to develop and open. So any type of you know, issues like molestation or sexual abuse of any kind and things like that will really, really mess up the sacral chakra at that time. And so that will definitely significantly impact your creativity and how you feel about yourself and your personality. Remember, we talked about the personality develops within that chakra. So that's why I really think back to that age and what may have happened for you at that time, or if there was any trauma that you experienced during that time. So to balance and open the sacral chakra, I would definitely recommend doing inner work. So during this Mercury retrograde, this would be a really great time to kind of go back over that past period of your life, 8 to 14, and really reassess kind of what happened, and then do some inner child healing around that time frame of your life if you feel like there was definitely some things that happened that may have kind of messed you up. And if you feel like you're still carrying those seeds of trauma within that sacral plexus, within that chakra, then this is definitely the time to do the inner child work. And you can do that work by, sorry, I lost my thing here. Yeah, so you can do that inner work by, what I was going to say is through journaling, writing down any thoughts, any feelings, anything that's really coming up for you from that time period. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. And ask yourself also, like, what were you really interested in or into at that time? Because and whatever you were into, or like just really interested in, or something perhaps that you really wanted to do or try at that time. Maybe it was like a sports thing, maybe it was like some kind of an art or artistic endeavor, you know, some kind of a class maybe, or an extracurricular that you really wanted to sign up for. And just kind of ask yourself, was there anything that was like shot down or disregarded by, you know, your parents or your caregivers or your family? Like, was there anything that you feel that you weren't allowed to do or that you couldn't do? Maybe your parents couldn't afford to put you into some kind of, you know, creative endeavor that you were super into or wanted to try at that time. So think about that, because that is going to be a really obvious like root basically of a dark seed, right? Something that was, again, causing underdevelopment within this chakra system, or within that chakra specifically. So spend some time reflecting and going back into that time and observing those situations with your now adult eyes and perspective. So this is something I'm doing for myself, where it's like, now that I'm an adult, now that I have a completely different perspective, because I'm so much more mature, because I'm so much more spiritual and so much more connected, and because of how I choose to live my life now, I have a completely different perspective. Being a healer, of course, and a coach, I have significantly more knowledge now in terms of how to heal certain aspects of ourselves. And now with these eyes, looking back at my age between 8 and 14 and kind of what happened, there are several very specific things that I can pinpoint that has happened in my life at that time that I know were highly traumatic for me. There was a lot of loss, there was a lot of moving around, there was a lot of different things that happened to me at that time. For example, for me, I definitely was not able to take any extracurriculars, and I know I really wanted to like get into dance, and I really wanted my parents to put me into like dance class or gymnastics or something like that, and that never really happened. It never came to fruition. So because of that, I can see the underdevelopment in those certain areas of my life, and how now and through my adult life, I have not given myself permission to do those things because of those seeds that were planted from when I was a child. And so now, working with the energy that is there, and this Mercury retrograde is actually bringing a lot of that up. It's helping me to really reestablish what I can do now to help nurture my sacral plexus, and also to help remove those negative or toxic seeds of information, right? Of energy information that was planted in there from when I was between the ages of 8 and 14. So definitely spend some time reflecting on, you know, what was sort of missing in your life, or traumatic or difficult, and then journal on that, right? Write that stuff out, write it down, how you feel about it, how you felt about it then, and then look at it with your eyes now and say, okay, those are things I couldn't do then, but I can do them now, or maybe I can just do some of them now, and actually, you know, look into signing up for that class, or trying different things, or, you know, exploring your sexuality more, or whatever it is, that whatever area you feel that you were stunted in when it comes to the sacral plexus. Like I said, it connects to several different things. So to balance the sacral chakra, I'm just going to mention 5 things here. Practice asana postures that target the sacral area. So for this, I'm just going to recommend that you can look up on YouTube, but I also will actually leave some links in the description box for different YouTube links where you can try or just copy the asana practices for specifically the sacral chakra to help open that up and get the energy flowing. Number 2, you can use stones and crystals to balance the sacral chakra as well, which you can also do a little bit of research for yourself. If you actually want to be productive and take care of yourself, then that self-care also means that you need to do some new learning and gain some new information so that you can help yourself and support yourself. So definitely look into the different stones and different crystals that you can use that support the sacral chakra. Number 3 is taking a soothing bath with essential oils. Very helpful. Remember, I said the sacral chakra connects to the water element. So water, like drinking more water, definitely swimming, spending time in a pool, a hot tub, or just a salt bath with essential oils is going to be really helpful to balance the sacral chakra and help open it up. Also, number 4, tapping into your creative side through journaling, which I had mentioned earlier already, dance, art, or whatever your preferred expression is. Definitely look at creatively expressing yourself to open up your sacral chakra. And number 5 is practice using affirmations. So you can create different affirmations, which I will also actually add in the description box, that are specific to your sacral chakra that will help you to reprogram the information within it. And when you reprogram a chakra, it is really great to actually put your hand on that chakra as you're saying those affirmations out loud, and definitely repeat the affirmations if you want to make significant headway. Actually, I would do this throughout the entire Mercury retrograde period, which is going to last approximately 3 weeks, 3 to 4, because then we still have shadow period after. So placing your hand on the belly button area and then reading those affirmations that I'm going to leave in the description box below will be really, really helpful to shift the energy in there and to start getting out the energy that has been stuck or that is keeping you stuck, perhaps creatively, energetically, sexually, and in all kinds of different ways. So try those out. This is my message, kind of long message, sorry, for this Mercury retrograde, but it's important because these are tools that I'm giving you that you can use to really heal yourself. And it's incredible. A lot of times I've spoken to so many people that, you know, go to therapy or go to therapists. And if that's your thing and it works for you, then go, of course, and do it and use it. But a lot of people don't get benefit from therapists because therapists oftentimes focus on just the psychological things, you know, and some of the emotional, but they completely bypass the energetics of the body and how the energy that is stuck in the body or not moving in the body is causing issues in the first place. And that is where healing actually begins, not necessarily in the mind. So with that being said, I encourage you to really seek out your own form and your own way of healing yourself and helping yourself. Remember, I talked about reaching out to others and asking for help if you need it. Definitely take the time. It is going to be worth it. It's going to pay off. And if you do it right now with this Mercury retrograde, it's really going to take hold, especially because we just had this solar eclipse yesterday, which definitely is going to be anchoring in and grounding in and seeding new information into our entire energy field, into our individual energy centers. So this is by far one of the best times to do sacral chakra work and really reevaluating your life, going back over things. So thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for tuning in, for being here with me, and please give the video a like and a subscribe to the channel if you like my content. I am definitely here to provide service to others, to help guide other people along as I guide myself along this beautiful journey of life. So thank you again for tuning in, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.